Strode, and welcome to Straightforward. Today I am visiting and having tea with my friend Doris Elaine Weaver Gillispie. And Elaine has a very, very powerful story about her mother's journey with Alzheimer's. Elaine, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I know it's an emotional thing to talk about, but our memory doctor, Dr. Liss, which you know him, he's the one that came up with the brain number, and it measures, how healthy your brain is. And we have an issue with Alzheimer's in our community where we're not participating in the research and the study. Some of the other ethnic groups, they have a lot of research and data to support them when those diagnoses happen. It's important that we start having honest conversations, as painful as they are, so that our family members, our friends, our loved ones are not left behind when research is developed. So I know that you took care of Mother, and she was a very active woman.
Extremely. And strong.
And strong and active to the end. But even in the midst of all of that, you still worked.
Yes.
She never went to a residential facility.
No.
You kept her at home with the help of your brother.
Yes.
And it was a journey. How long was that journey?
It was about 15 years.
Really?
My mother's doctor said that her progression was slower than anyone he'd ever seen.
Really?
But she never drank, she never smoked, and she always exercised.
Okay.
So she was walking, cutting grass.
Yeah.
Because
she loved her yard.
She
Yeah,
loved her
because I've
yard.
been there before, and you had a beautiful yard. So her remaining active
That's right.
made a difference. And so it was slow, her
Her
progression.
progression was slow. And I didn't notice it, but a church member noticed it.
Really?
She called me and she said, Elaine, you need to have your mother checked. I said, what do you mean? I said, she's fine. She goes. She said, no. She was at church today and she didn't know where she was.
Really?
And so that's when I talked to her doctor and he checked her for Alzheimer's.
Really?
And that little quick test said that she was in the early stage.
Really? And so, and that's my thing. And I had this conversation with Dr. Liss, and of course you know him. He's a great guy, very easy to approach, very humble in all of his gifts. In our community, sometimes we'll say their memory slipped a little.
Right.
That's a dangerous thing, because if we are ignoring the signs and they live alone, things like leaving the door unlocked, it's a safety issue. Leaving the stove on.
She burned many pots.
Did she?
She burned many pots.
Because she lived alone.
She lived alone. And then I
brought her
here because it didn't make sense to try to maintain two houses.
No. And then it's a safety issue. Yeah.
And it's a financial issue too. Because my mother worked all her life. She paid for a home. But sometimes we outlive our money.
We outlive our money. Now that's deep. We had
had
that conversation before at another time.
Right.
And so even with all of the work, all of the preparation, paying her bills, keeping her home very nice, the yard, because I've been there before with you, all of that, she got sick and stayed sick for an extended period of time, so she depleted her resources.
That's right.
But it was a blessing that you were in a position, because you had a career, served for a very long time as a congressional representative. Before that, you were military, firefighter, spouse of a military officer, and so you were in a position to help her financially, and that's not always the case for a lot of people, and it's expensive.
Aricept was $375 a month.
So Aricept is what she was on.
She was on
to help manage the disease.
Yeah. And then, but we couldn't see how it was slowing the progression. She wasn't getting better, and it was free for a while. We got it for free for about a year. Then slowly it kept going up. And Mother had good insurance with Aflac, but slowly it kept
going up. Everything was just so expensive.
Yeah, everything was expensive. And to maintain her house with electric and gas, $150, she wasn't getting a lot of money because she never had a great job
that paid big salaries. And see, that's the thing that I, struggle with people who have all of those political talking points. Like my father lived to be the ripe age of 92. But every job he always had, he did not have big wages.
That's right.
Like your career position or some of the positions that I had.
Right.
And so your Social Security is based on what your wage base was.
Last 3 years ago.
And so it's like, okay, so when they started out, before civil rights and all of that, they worked very hard.
That's right.
But their wages were very low.
And some of them get an opportunity to pay into Social Security.
Right.
And so, they were paid domestic service work.
Exactly.
They didn't take Social Security.
No, exactly, because that happened with my aunt.
Yeah.
And she had dementia. And she ended up in a nursing home facility because, her children were adults and the one lived in another part of the country and that kind of thing. And it just got to be where she needed the feeding tube. Right. So did we ever get to that?
No, we
never got to that place.
Mother ate until her last 3 months, and that's when her body started to shut down.
Really?
It was just, I saw my mother go to a strong, vibrant, black, good old Southern Christian black woman to an infant.
Really?
To an infant, where she stayed in the bed and curled up in the fetus position, and that's where she went to heaven.
Really? And so all of her hard work up until the end, about those last 3 months.
The last 3 months.
Right. And I know it's difficult to talk about because I know, you're a mama's girl and you did all that you could. But the reason I wanted to have this conversation is sometimes we have to share our testimony to help other people. And I just had a relative that was newly diagnosed. And I was like, this is a conversation we need to have in our community. If we can help what your mother was saying, if we can help somebody along the way, then our living has not been in vain. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go to our first break to our sponsors, and we're going to come back and talk about all of those hymns Mother used to sing. All right. We'll be right back after a word from some of our sponsors. Straightforward is brought to you by State Senator Ed Harbison, serving the citizens of Georgia's 15th Senatorial District and on the front lines for veterans every day. Progressive Funeral Home, family owned and operated since 1952. The George Ford legacy of high standards continues today in the compassionate and professional services provided. A touch of dignity for those who care. Progressive Funeral Home, 4235 St. Mary's Road, trusted by generations. The Columbus Memory Center, 7196 North Lake Drive, Suite A, Columbus. Dr. Jonathan Liss is a board-certified neurologist and sleep specialist committed to battling Alzheimer's by preserving independence, offering you the opportunity to get your memory number for free, the only vital sign for brain health. Call today at 706-327-4000 or visit columbusmemorycenter.com. Welcome back to Straightforward. I'm continuing this very, very important conversation with my friend, Doris Elaine Weaver Gillispie from Ingersoll Hill.
I love my roots.
I know, right? That you have a good family legacy and your mother was always so very proud of her home. A very, very nice home, and she kept it just so perfect. And so I know it was a big change to have to move her from the place that she was so familiar with, that she loved so much, and move her here to your home so that you could continue your career to work, because you are a widow.
Right.
And then take care of her. Right. And wearing a lot of hats.
I love it.
Wearing a lot of hats. Well, my best memory of Mother, and of course we went to church one Sunday, and this is really a funny story, and it's a happy story, but it was his mother was getting, the disease was taking over. Mother went to church, and that's when we discovered she had...
I picked her handbag up.
Right.
And I said, where's this handbag? So heavy.
Right.
And I had been noticing my gold flatware
was missing.
Was walking away. And so I opened it up, and I said, Mama, and you said, oh, Jesus.
She had all the silverware in her Sunday purse. But anyway, that's a happy story. It's a happy story. You know, at the time it was like, oh, wow, Mother. But the thing that I remembered, and I've seen other people say this because I've looked at a lot of other cases, and I've been visiting the different workshops that Dr. Liss and Dr. Epps, who is an African American who's doing a special study through Emory University. Just looking at some of the different cases and the research that they're trying to do on behalf of African Americans. But even in Mother's sickness, in that disease, she knew every hymn.
Every verse.
Every verse. And so you would cook, and we would sit in the kitchen and sing. And I would only know my first and third or second and fourth, because you know that I wasn't from the era she was. I had been a choir member, but not like that. And even as her memory, faded, she never forgot those hymns.
She never forgot a hymn. And then when she couldn't sing, I would sing it to her, and she did
She couldn't recall the words.
She couldn't recall the words.
But she did.
She stopped talking. She stopped speaking. And so, but she knew the song. She knew the song. Nobody knows the trouble I sing.
She just couldn't get the words
Grace,
out.
Still Away.
Those are her favorites.
Those are her favorites.
Yeah.
Jesus Loves Me. How I Got Over.
Oh, How I Got Over. Oh, yeah.
Storm is packing wonders.
Yeah, but she had a very good, rich, strong voice.
Yes, she did.
And so her church members, as you were saying before we went to the break, they noticed. Because church was important to her.
Oh, yes, she went to church.
She was faithful.
She was faithful. She had been a member of that church for 75 years.
Okay, so even as her memory faded, she knew that was a familiar place.
That's right.
Right. And so the church member
would take her because I would be working.
Right.
And Mrs. Edmonds would pick her up. And she still lives in the neighborhood. They still go to the same church. And she would pick Mama up for Sunday school, regular morning service. And if Mama wanted to go with her in the evening service, she would come and pick her up.
Yeah.
Now, Miss Edmonds was younger than Mama.
Right. So
she could watch Mom. She knew Mama. She knew everything. And so they had my number.
Right.
And she called me. She said, got to check on your mom here.
And I'm sure that was a loss for her. Because when we have the people in our village, and then they are no longer the people we remember.
Right.
And that happened with my aunt, my father's sister. And when I went to visit her in the nursing home, and she didn't know who I was devastated. Because as a part of our courtship, me and my husband, we drank coffee at her table daily. And she would boil the Maxwell House, and you could smell it in that pot on the stove.
I got a percolating pot.
And that's what I'm saying. And then she used Carnation instant milk.
And I still use Carnation instant milk.
And so it wasn't the fancy, glamorous, but that was a part of our courtship. So for me to go and visit her, and then she didn't know who I was, I couldn't go back anymore. And it wasn't that I was trying not to honor her. It was just too painful. So we see them slipping away, and it's like they're lost.
Yes.
And then it's like their eyes get glazed over. And I'm not really sure what that is. Did you see that with Mother? It's like they're really not present. They're there, but they're not present.
They're in a different world. But I tried. I got pictures from her house, put it on the wall. I used her linen, so she on my bed. I gave her my bedroom, and so that it would be homey. When she got mad,
familiar things,
everything. I think I have 10 photo albums. We would sit and look at the photo albums so that she could remember people who weren't there anymore.
Right.
But she knew them, part of her history in her life. Her mother.
Right.
Her father, her granddad, my great-great-granddaddy, because my great-great-granddaddy lived to be 97. And I thought he was my granddaddy for a long time.
Right. And so you brought her linens from her house, pictures, familiar things, put it in the environment to try to help her.
I could use her silverware, her plates and things like that. And she knew, that's mine. That's mine. I said, yes, Mom, it's yours.
Right.
But she knew she wasn't at home.
Oh, okay.
She knew
because
that.
she was accustomed to being out in her yard.
That's
Because we
right.
went to visit her, and
That's
she
right.
was in the yard doing
Always
something.
in the yard.
Right. And
Cutting, moving bricks or cutting trees down and trying to cut that 2 acres of land
with a push lawnmower. Right. So for your other siblings, I know your brother Sidney, he helped out. And I know it had to be hard for him because he's the only boy, right?
Yeah.
He was the only boy.
I would go to work and he would be here during the day. At first, she didn't want him to bathe her.
She knew that was her son.
She knew his son. And then eventually, she got used to it. And my brother and I had a standing joke because mother would defecate on herself. And so when I come home from work, I said, Sidney, did mama leave me a gift? He said, no, she went to the bathroom already. Yeah. And my niece was here one day. And mama got up and went to the bathroom.
Wow.
And Sidney and I just had a grand old time, praise God. And my niece said, Auntie Elaine, you and Uncle Sidney need to get out. You and him.
She didn't understand that grandmother had forgotten
how to do
those basic things. And so you all were celebrating.
We were celebrating. She said, Auntie Elaine, you and Uncle Sidney need to get out. Because y'all celebrated too much.
She didn't understand what the journey has been. And that was the thing that I really wanted us to be open about. Because a lot of folks, they don't really know. And when it starts happening, it creates a lot of stress and division in families.
It does.
So what we're going to do, take our final break, go to our sponsors, and we'll be right back. We'll be right back after word from some of our sponsors. Apple Tax Services, for the best in tax preparation. 7413 Whitesville Road, Columbus. Call for your appointment today at 706-243-2590 or 706-243-2595. And remember, an apple a day keeps the audits away. The law offices of Siobhan S. Thomas and Associates, 201 9th Street in Uptown Columbus, 706-350-7232. A veteran-owned law firm dedicated to equal rights and justice for all. Make Siobhan S. Thomas and Associates your first choice for legal services. Visit SiobhanThomas.com. The Miley Agency, 4903 Armour Road. Gerald L. Miley and William Ripsinger have been providing comprehensive reviews and insuring families in Georgia and Alabama for more than 50 years. The Miley Agency will work non-stop to find you the best policy at the best price. You can rest assured that your information is secure, confidential, and protected. Call today at 706-996-2045. Welcome back to Straightforward. I'm continuing this very important conversation with my friend Doris Elaine Weaver Gillispie. Before we went to the break, we started talking about, and then on a sidebar, how important it is as your parents start to get older. We need to make sure that they have a living will. We need to make sure that they have a final will. And we need to make sure that they have selected the correct executor, because we both live long enough to know that people are not always as cooperative and agreeable as we would like for them to be.
And the executive is not always the caregiver.
The executive is not always the caregiver. That is correct.
And they're out of touch.
Yes.
They can be very, very so out of touch.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's true, and so, but making the right decisions and putting the right people in the right place with the right information and knowledge is really what makes a difference. So when you said your niece, which I know she's very well traveled, married to officers, live all over the world, did not understand that having mother go to the restroom instead of maybe in an adult diaper or a depend or something like that, that was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
Because those are those skills that they lose over time. So the folks who are not active in the process daily, they don't understand.
No, they have no idea.
Right. And so sometimes they're only focusing on the financial part.
They're making sure that she's clean. I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, because sometimes I would have to leave and go to work at 7. I would get mother dressed. I'd get her a shower, do her hair, get her ready. So that was one less test that my brother would have to do. He would feed her. When she would walk, he would take her outside to walk to make sure she got plenty of vitamin D and lots of exercise. And then when she got in the wheelchair, he would walk her in the wheelchair. But it was.
So she forgot how to walk.
She forgot how to walk.
See, those are the things we have to tell people.
Yes.
And that's why our folks need to be a part of all of this research.
Right.
Because the last event I went to at Dr. List, they say they have some new drugs that are almost approved by the FDA, and they are very good at addressing some of those things that come with the disease.
Right.
It will not cure it, but it really slows it down. But if we're not a part of that, or our people are not knowledgeable enough, you just said something. Mother, sometimes forgot how to use the bathroom.
Right.
Then mother forgot how to walk. And so that's like going from the parent back to the child. And so you have to be prepared mentally and financially
and physically
to take that journey.
Because it's not a very easy journey. It's mentally tolling. It's like, I want my mama back.
I want my mama that took care of me.
I want my mama back. But that's gone.
Right.
And it's not coming back. And to me, I became very selfish because I didn't want her to go. And she had, I don't know whether she was in any pain or not, because she couldn't express that to me.
Right.
She forgot how to talk. She used to sing, and then she forgot how to talk, but she still could sing. Then she forgot how to sing.
And so all of those things that made her your mother
were gone.
And so then your role as caregiver, you and your brother, and just trying to hold it all together and work a full-time job.
An 80-hour
a week
job.
Right, because it required a lot of travel and everything. And so the other family members, when did they come to realize that this was not something that was curable? Well, this was something that would just take its toll over time, and then she would eventually move to the other side.
My other sister, older sister, Carolyn, she realized it. But she had diabetes and she had heart problems. So she couldn't.
Yeah, she had health issues.
She had health issues. But she would come by. If we needed to go somewhere, she said, bring Mama by the house and I'll
let her sit with her.
That's right.
And then give you a break to go take care of business.
Right. Like that. I don't know whether my younger sister accepted it or she just wanted to ignore it. I don't think that's something that she has to deal with between her and her God.
Right. And sometimes people do. They'll stick their head in the sand because it's easier than for them to have to face
the reality
of what is.
That's right.
And there are some things, there's nothing we can do anything about. As a friend of mine told me once, that is God's business. There's nothing you can do. All you can do is what you can do and do your best daily. And at the end of the journey, you won't have any regrets. And I know you are a perfectionist in everything you do. You're an excellent cook, housekeeper, hard worker, and you are a fixer. So you thought in your mind that if I take mother, it's going to be all right. And when you had to accept, it was difficult. You were frustrated. You were angry.
Very angry.
Yes. And it took you a time to work through all of that to say, I did the very best I could.
And I'm going to tell you somebody, a young lady, she passed before my mother passed. I was at my friend's house, and her mother pulled me to the side. This is Juanita Craig. She said, Elaine, let your mama do what she wants to do. I said, but she said, your mama want to walk up that road. Take your little BLACKAS. That's just how she spoke to me.
Right.
And she said, because she's not going to get better. Enjoy that life. Talk to her. And I did.
Live in the moment.
Live in the moment.
Right.
And that's what I did.
Right.
And a friend of mine, mother, that was diagnosed with Alzheimer. And I gave her the exact
same advice. So live in the moment, enjoy them where you are at that time.
every moment.
Every single moment. And then know that you did your best.
That's
Right. So we're going to encourage people who have not looked at getting that memory number for
And
their
I need
family
to get
member.
my memory number.
They can get it at the Columbus Memory Center. It's free. They can call them, walk in Monday through Friday. There's no reason not to do it. And I'm going to encourage everyone from the African American community to at least consider being a part of that research, because it's touched every family that I know. And so we have to start doing our part in educating our community and making sure that we're engaged.
And we're prepared.
Exactly. Well, I thank you so much for having this tough conversation. I know you're a mama's girl. I know that journey you were on, but I thought it was just important that we share something.
And I appreciate it for thinking of me.
All right. Well, thank you. This has been straightforward. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. Until next time, be blessed.
What up, world? What's up, Columbus? Be sure to tune in every Sunday, Straightforward with Gloria Strode, right here on NBC 38.